trash. Mine was not trash.
What's going on? Okay. I mean, are you moving those guys, or you just got to clean the sidewalk, or what?
They're moving.
Okay. I'm just curious. I used to be right here too, so.
Brian was on the streets of San Francisco for 3 years between 2020 and 2023.
Mama, you want a cigarette? Sorry, Mama. You'll be all right. Like, I guess they were probably, like, visibly smoking fetty on the street, you know? But it's kind of, they send you mixed messages, because one day they'll cruise right by, and the next day they will take you to lockup.
There's someone actually doing fentanyl right there.
Oh yeah, you're gonna see that. Like you saw like 10 policemen were right over there. But I mean, people smoke fentanyl on crowded trains. You know what I'm saying? Like, people don't give a shit.
Over the last few years, fentanyl addiction in San Francisco has been likened to a death sentence.
We have had, more overdose deaths in 1 year at one point than we did of COVID deaths in our city.
All right, brother. All right.
Brian was in a small pocket of the city called the Tenderloin. So many people overdosed here that a state of emergency was declared in 2021.
Have you seen a picture of yourself from that time?
Wow, that's so crazy. I look like I'm 100 years old.
He very nearly died. Cities like San Francisco are where young Americans who are horribly addicted to opioids often end up. This is one account of what life is like on the streets.
So I grew up in Tampa. Like, that was where I was formed as a person, which was definitely via like skateboarding. So I was a user of various opiates, like, since I was a teenager. So when I was in high school, OxyContin was wildly, I could probably get OxyContin easier than I could get beer. Like, it was wildly available. I could buy it at school.
He says his addiction slowly got worse. Pills, then heroin, then fentanyl. After spending time in prison for a drug charge, he moved to San Francisco. He slept on friends' sofas.
I didn't even know coming out here how rampant it was and how affordable it was. Like, it was very cheap here. I'd go on a run where I'd smoke fentanyl and crystal meth for 3 days straight and just running around the streets, not sleeping, just skating around. And then I'd pop back up and crash on, a friend's couch and shower and get my shit together a little bit and then go back out and do it again, And it just, I stopped. I would imagine I was not welcome anymore, but I just stopped coming around because I didn't have any good news. For a year, I didn't go to sleep on purpose. Where I fell is where I slept, after being awake for 4 days. So I would wake up just laying on the bricks at Civic Center in the morning, like that, just flat on the ground, it wasn't uncommon. And I always wondered, why don't you go and get under cover or something? And it's because you're just exhausted. You're just sheer exhaustion, and you lay where you fall, So yeah, I've been there, been there plenty of times. Here, let's see if we can go in the church. So yeah, there's definitely people here. In mornings, you can sleep in here, in the pews, which I would do often, many mornings. There's definitely people in there now. But yeah, somewhere dry and warm, exceedingly warm. But yeah, so they're open 6 a.m. to 2:30. It's an all-encompassing desire. It's a 24-hour-a-day job. All you're doing is acquiring money to make sure you still have dope. Because even when you run out, obviously withdrawals are looming. They're gonna come in a matter of hours. So it feels very bad. It's the worst flu you've ever had, the worst hangover you've ever had. You just feel poisoned. You have zero energy. Getting out of bed is a daunting prospect. I was a booster, so what I would do is I would go to a store and I would steal shit. There was a time period when the stealing was so rampant in the city and surrounding Bay Area that they would kind of just let you do your thing.
Another brazen theft caught on camera at a San Francisco Walgreens.
Target is cutting its hours at its stores in San Francisco after a spike in thefts.
It's a crime that's becoming all too common here in the Bay Area.
Over and over again, robberies not being done under cloak and dagger, but in broad daylight.
Yeah, I don't know. I tried to not make anybody's life harder, like, even at my worst. But obviously I know there's, like, stealing from a company still affects somebody's life down the line in the grand scheme of things, you know? So I can just understand how you could be driven to stuff like that, you know?
This was a period when authorities were widely criticised for not doing enough to tackle crime in and around the Tenderloin. Speaking to the BBC, it was something the city's Attorney General denied at the time.
We don't have any policy whatsoever that suggests non-prosecution of shoplifting. The overwhelming majority of cases police bring us, nearly 90%, are prosecuted.
Yet Brian talks of streets that felt lawless.
This is the Tenderloin police station. It's pretty much like it's at the heart of the TL. And yeah, I used to sit like right there on that ledge and smoke fentanyl all night. So I would say
right by the police station?
In front on the police station's property. Yeah.
Brian was just about surviving, but death was never far away.
There was one time we were sitting on a ledge smoking dope, like me and a few guys near the drug dealer spot. And there was a guy like laying down on the ground, kind of watching him, but he wasn't moving, but people laying on the ground sleeping all over the place in that area, you know? And then somebody went over to him and he was dead. He was laying there on the side of the road, like a pretty busy, like 1 block from Market by the Federal building, like on the sidewalk of the Federal building. There was a dead body sitting for hours. And that's just regular Tuesday morning or whatever.
Brian had no phone, no ID, nothing. His mum filed a missing persons report.
For a time, she definitely thought I was dead. All my friends did too. Like they had at least accepted that it was a real possibility.
After finding out he was alive and in San Francisco, his mum and her partner searched the city for him.
They just came out and they went to this place called Glide that gives out meals. And I'm like never there at that time, but I happened to be there with my buddy, like on a fluke, and I ran into my folks. Like they found me. She was definitely trying to not cry the whole time. Like she was trying to put on a brave face and keep it together.
Chained to his addiction though, Brian wouldn't leave.
You're embarrassed about it. You know, you gotta face the music. And plus, it just as time grew, it was like that much harder to contact her and be like, sorry. Like that's definitely the thing that I feel like the most regret about was like making my mom and my family and friends worry, you know? Like I feel terrible about it.
In 2022, Brian's feet were starting to get more and more swollen, a common problem for fentanyl users. He walked with a limp.
I had cellulitis, like which is a cellular infection in my legs due to like poor circulation, and I would stand, like I wouldn't lay down for many days at a time, you know? So your circulation gets messed up and your legs, the toxins never drain. Like when you lay down, they drain and your kidney processes them. That wouldn't happen, so then you get like sores on your legs.
By the middle of 2022, Brian could barely walk. There's very few pictures of him from this time, but he was caught briefly in this news piece. He eventually had to start using a wheelchair. By pure coincidence, we bumped into an old friend.
Good to see you, brother. How you been? How you do, doggy? I've known you for years, but you've definitely seen me like at my worst, for sure. You pushed me around in a wheelchair, like it's, you know.
Right, I didn't know that, really.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
You used to push Brian around in a wheelchair?
In a wheelchair,
definitely.
Yeah, and gladly too, because it was like, oh, lead around. And like it's like out here, you want to be with somebody. Like it's like a.
Yeah, you call it, sorry. Yeah, you call it. They call it a road dog, like somebody to run with, to watch your back, and also just like companionship. You know.
Is your leg okay? It's like wet.
Oh yeah. I don't know what that's from. Yeah, see.
That's what happens. It's like weeping wounds. So you got to change the dressing all the time. You already know. Like it sucks. That's how mine were, but I was probably worse.
6 months ago, Brian's legs became septic.
It feels bad. Like you were like racked with pain and you just feel poisoned. The sepsis I felt so bad I could barely eat. Like I probably weighed like 120 pounds, probably less, like, which is I was like skeletal. I was like laying in the BART station unresponsive, apparently, like in the chair, like, and somebody checked on me. Probably hundreds of people walked by and were like, whatever. And somebody had the wherewithal to check on me and was like, this dude's unresponsive. So they, called 911. I had pulmonary embolisms. I had blood clots in both legs. I still have a blood filter in my hip that they had to put in. It was like real hit or miss. Like they thought I was going to die a few times.
Need some rails, boy.
Brian did survive though, and says the experience changed him. He's been clean for nearly a year now. He's hoping he'll be able to skate when he gets off his crutches.
You definitely regain or even grow a greater appreciation for little, like, small pleasures. Like the sound of skateboard wheels on the concrete, or like the sound of rain, or you can stop and smell the roses again, rather than just, like, I couldn't enjoy anything if it wasn't, like, fentanyl was the first concern. Nobody's happy out there. Like, I mean, it's always been rough, but it's worse than it's ever been. Like, I see guys I know and they look bad, like they're not having a good time. They're just slogging through.
Brian could consider himself lucky. During the period that he was on the streets, from November 2020 to April 2023, 1,683 people died in San Francisco due to a drugs overdose, most of them from synthetic opioids like fentanyl.